I know what you're thinking. You're doing a moveset for them? Are you crazy? Well, maybe, but that's beside the point. With a series like Smash, where the entire roster is characters from other games, building movesets for each new fighter comes down to how best to depict them in this new setting. Which raises a question: is it ideal to lift as many moves and mechanics from their home series as one-to-one as possible, or would a more pragmatic touch that adapts them to Smash's environment work better? Each side can have its downsides. Fully adapted and localized newcomers can be a fresh take on the character, but they're also vulnerable to weird creative decisions that leave them feeling not so true to character. Direct translations can be really cool to see in action, with super creative newcomers that feel like they walked right out of their games, but they can also fit poorly in an environment built around rules they don't follow, and are very difficult to balance without ending up notably weak or notably strong. Perhaps the best newcomer designs are the ones that know when and how to use both. This is Challenger Approaching, where we take a character who isn't playable in Smash yet and go deep into detail on what they could be like if they got in for real. Our challenger this time came out of nowhere earlier this year with some compelling stuff to offer despite the inherent baggage of the series they're from. And what if I told you I figured out how to work several of their game's signature mechanics into their kit while adapting them carefully enough to make them feel like a natural fit? Shez. Shez is the main protagonist and player avatar of Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. I know there's like 3 different things in that sentence that send half the Smash fandom into a rage, but hear me out. Shez was an ordinary mercenary getting by as a hired blade, until one day when their merc group was pitted against another by 2 feuding nobles, forcing them into battle against the dreaded Ashen Demon, a fight they would lose. While their story in the main timeline ended here, in this one a twist of fate led a strange figure who spoke in their mind to save them from death and grant them new otherworldly powers that helped them survive, though not win, the encounter. This one change caused far-reaching consequences, as sometime later it was Shez, not Byleth, who found a certain trio of royal heirs lost on an expedition. The encounter kick-started a chain of events that altered the realm of Fodlan forever, leading to conspirators exposed early, conflicts escalated in haste, and a very different war enveloping the continent than the one we originally knew. So yeah, this is a character with a very interesting setup and some very unique abilities, but that only goes so far when they're stuck with the stigma of being from a Fire Emblem game. Some very loud and vitriolic voices have argued it has far more attention on the roster than it deserves. Even though we have no idea what the next Smash game's roster will look like, and there'll probably be a lot of cuts next time, merely suggesting the idea of a Fire Emblem newcomer can be tantamount to ending your turn in enemy range when you're not a tank. Which is a shame, because this is a genuinely interesting character. A dual-wielding mercenary with dark powers and magic and a fast-paced, aggressive fighting style? They'd be speculated on constantly if they were from anywhere else. They've even been well-received by Fire Emblem fans, many of whom appreciate having an avatar character with a distinct identity and personality again. Helps that Shez is actually pretty complex and nuanced, well-educated for a commoner in their world, and very good at articulating their thoughts and coming up with reasonable logic for their decisions. That kind of depth is appreciated. So it's even more of a shame that Shez is between a rock and a hard place here. It's hard to garner support when you're from a series so many Smash fans want to see knocked down a peg, much less from a spin-off, even if it's very close to a mainline title story-wise. And getting into Smash 6 will already be tough when we don't know when it's coming, and an actual mainline Fire Emblem game with its own main characters is liable to happen any time now with how long it's been since 3 Houses. So in the time since this was originally recorded, we actually did have the next mainline Fire Emblem game announced, so that complicates matters. But we also had Shez get added to Fire Emblem Heroes, something that never happened to the cast of the first Fire Emblem Warriors. So, Still, I think there's something legitimately worth exploring here. Even if Smash never gives them a full design, we the fans still can. No harm in that, right? And I say, challenge accepted. Let's see what Shez could be like in Smash. Depicted here in their signature Flugel class, Shez is an avatar character like Robin, Corrin, and Byleth before them, who can be male or female based on which the player chooses. Smash could do its usual thing for avatars and split the alts 50-50. They would need to adjust female Shez's models so she's the exact same height as her male counterpart, but Smash has done that before, so that's no problem. We also need to talk swords, since Shez fights with two of them. In their left hand, they'll wield a Fodlanese Killing Edge like in their official art, a different design from the Killing Edge item in Ultimate, and it's just aesthetic here, no increased crit rate or anything. But in their right hand, Shez wields a special sword unique to them. Literally, it materializes in their hand at will and disintegrates when they let go. Both the Killing Edge and the signature sword that doesn't have a name somehow will be slightly shorter here than in canon for balance purposes, aiming for about the same range as Roy and Crom have, because much more than that on a fighter built for speed and offense could be a serious balancing problem. For alternate palettes, the obvious picks would be alts based on Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude, but we can get more creative than that, especially if we're assuming Byleth and their alts will still be around. Instead, how about the House Leader's retainers, using palettes based on their designs from Three Hopes? Would be cool thematically, since Shez is more of a right-hand man/woman instead of the mentor figure Byleth is in Three Houses. Other options could include, well, Byleth, or one based on Yuri since he didn't sneak into Byleth's alts, or a couple based on the Agarthans since Shez's power is unsettlingly similar to theirs, or maybe a fellow mercenary or two could fit. There'd definitely be an Arval palette though, that's too obvious to pass up. Attributes, stats, and playstyle are next, starting with the latter. We need to pull from in-game stats and lore to get this right. Shez's fighting style in Three Hopes is intentionally flashy and eye-catching. They mention at one point that it's on purpose to get the attention of potential clients. Not only that, they have one of the highest speed stats of anyone in Three Hopes, and while that doesn't translate into movement speed in that game, it certainly can here. Put it together, and we have a high-octane rushdown fighter sure to be a crowd pleaser. Shez wants to play aggressively as much as possible, using their mobility and moveset to approach opponents and overwhelm their defenses with rapid attacks until they find or force an opening. Being a rushdown sword fighter does change things a little. Shez's attacks aren't as seamless as someone like Sheik or Fox, but that's because they have better range and aren't as easy to outspace. Shez also diverges from others in the archetype by being much more thinking heavy. For reasons we'll get into later, simply turning your brain off and holding forward will not let you use the full extent of their abilities. This is also true to character. Shez is an experienced mercenary with good presence of mind during battle. Players will want to be the same way to make the most of the moveset, and trust me, there gets to be a lot to keep track of. For detailed stats, Shez is kinda short for their ambiguously young adult age, and that'd carry over easy enough. Below average size for a realistically proportioned person is still a tick above average on the roster overall. They also have below average weight, 1 point heavier than Marth and Lucina, but lighter than the rest of the Fire Emblem cast. Shez won't lose stock super early, but it's still a little sooner than average. All the more reason not to get too reckless or too trigger happy when recovering. Speaking of which, that's a weird recovery stat, isn't it? Shez's ability to get back to stage ranges from quite good to not so good, depending on something we'll get to later. But it's not for lack of movement. Shez has amazing mobility to fit such a high speed stat, with initial dash, run, and air speeds all in the top 20 of the roster. Walk speed is only slightly worse at top 25, and fall speed's merely above average. Though not falling too fast has its upsides. You might not be able to lay on pressure as seamlessly as full-on fast fallers, but it means Shez won't get comboed as hard and won't have to make snap decisions off stage as quickly. Yeah, so that thing with Shez's recovery stat also applies to their offense, with multiple levels of effectiveness based on certain factors. Damage per hit can be mediocre or not half bad. Knockout power can be legit or lackluster. Tailoring your choices to what Shez is currently capable of would be key. Their combo game, though? That's consistent. Several of their moves naturally lead into several others for a very fluid and free-form damage dealer. Even if their combos aren't as elaborate as someone like Bayonetta, they're still very capable of catching the eye as easily as they catch opponents. Shez's moveset is a little different. To best convey the feel of playing the game they're from, each of their standard attacks will be one of two types. Light attacks are fast and combo friendly but deal low damage per hit and barely scratch enemy shields. Heavy attacks are stronger, deal more shield pressure, and have actual kill power, but they have much more end lag and are easily punished if they don't connect. All of Shez's A-button moves will be one or the other. Keep that in mind as we get into their basic attacks. Shez's jab combo starts things off with a double slash to the left, then a double slash to the right with more vertical reach, then one of two finishers, a quick trio of slashes if you held A or only pressed it a couple times, or a rapid flurry of stabs ending in a forward thrust if you mashed it. The first finisher is a light attack. While it's not very damaging, it actually combos into stuff at low percents. The rapid jab is a heavy attack, laying on good standalone damage with actual kill power at the ledge, but you're left wide open afterward. Shez's forward tilt is simpler, a horizontal slash to the right with one sword, then the other for 2 total hits. Basically, they take the move you see here and adapt it for dual wielding. Shez is smart enough to do that. It's a light move with diagonal knockback that starts combos at low percents, but is more for spacing after that since it doesn't kill worth a damn. Shez's up tilt has them slash in an upward arc with their left hand killing edge. Only one sword, so only one hit. The arc starts at about the 4 o'clock position and ends at 11 o'clock. Another light attack, sending opponents up above Shez for easy follow-ups at first and juggle opportunities at higher percents. Their down tilt is a forward stab at ground level with one sword after the other for 2 hits. The first stab deals no real knockback but links into the second, which pops people up for easy combos up through mid percents since it's yet another light attack. Does have a little more end lag than most other lights, so heads up there. How about a heavy attack for once? Shez's dash attack has them rush forward at high speed with a rapid series of thrusts that drag enemies along, ending in a final powerful stab. Unlike in Three Hopes, Shez doesn't disappear during it, so you can still see where their hurt box is. With high damage, strong kill power, and surprisingly decent startup, it demands respect. But it doesn't cross up shields, and it has so much end lag that opponents can punish with a smash attack if they're close enough. Speaking of which, let's talk about Shez's smash attacks. Their forward smash starts strong, having them stab forward with both swords, then follow with an outward double slash. Not only is it fast to come out for a smash attack, Shez lunges forward a dash length at the start to catch opponents who thought they were safe. The catch? It's one of the weakest smash attacks, not killing a ledge until around 100% and not at mid-stage until 140. Shez's up smash taps into some of their magic ability, spinning both swords above their head like a propeller and stirring up a dark cyclone that snares opponents for multiple hits. Smaller than it is in Three Hopes for balance reasons, it's still pretty big for a multi-hit attack, and it's also pretty fast to come out. Shez ends the move by shoving both swords upward, unlike in Three Hopes, dealing vertical knockback that is admittedly mediocre, but it can still finish stocks from 120-ish onward. Then their down smash is a classic spin attack. Comes out very fast in front, and while the front hit is just okay knockback wise, the back hit actually has respectable power, making this Shez's strongest smash attack. However, it's just as super punishable as the other smashes, so just throwing it out blindly is a bad idea. Alright, aerials next. Shez has an unusual set of them, starting with a neutral air loosely based on the combat art Astra, having them turn sideways, hold their swords out diagonally, and perform a long-lasting 360-degree vertical spin. Unusual for Nairs, this one's a heavy attack, slower to come out but built to finish combos. It can also edgeguard well with how long it's active, but make sure you can get back afterward. Shez's forward air has him slash in a downward arc with one sword, then an upward slash with the other. As a light attack, it's a 2-hit combo move with low base knockback and a diagonal angle for extending combos. It's also Shez's fastest aerial and therefore best out of shield option. Landing with the first hit can lead into stuff, but with above average landing lag, it's impractical. For their back air, Shez swings both swords hard in a downward arc. A heavy attack with one single hit. It's one of their best kill moves, boasting legit power, solid range, and not as much end lag as the other heavy moves. The startup's kind of mediocre to compensate, so it works best as a call out. Shez's up air adapts a move from the Swordmaster class to work with 2 swords, performing a quick pair of circular slashes focused on the air above. Unlike the Swordmaster version, this one's a light attack. Shez adapted the technique to make it a combo move. Has extra vertical reach in active frames compared to typical swordy up airs, but it doesn't cover to the sides as well. Lastly, Shez's down air has them bring their swords together, lean down, and slash outward in both directions below. Deals one hit with good lateral reach, but it doesn't spike, because it's a light attack, setting up combos like the sour spot of Pit Stare does. Hey, when your swordplay is mostly self-taught, your moves can have unconventional rolls. Onto the grab game, which doesn't get any simpler, mostly. Shez's grab animations have them dematerialize their signature sword and reach forward with their now empty right hand. This gives their grabs slightly slower startup than average for a sword fighter. For their pummel, Shez just knees the opponent, the only simplistic move in the entire kit. Their throws certainly aren't anyway. Shez's forward throw imitates another Swordmaster move, a straight kick followed by a downward slash with their killing edge, since the other sword hasn't been called back yet. Shez's back throw has them turn around and perform a lightning-fast dashing sword slash. Believe it or not, this is the moveset's combo throw, dealing weak backward knockback that puts the enemy above Shez for follow-ups at low percents. And if the momentum sends Shez off stage, they're free to act afterward with all their options intact. Then Shez's up throw has them soft toss the opponent and slash at them with their killing edge, and their down throw has them adapt the combat art Wrath Strike by grasping the enemy harder and slamming them against the ground. Deals the most damage of the set, but it doesn't kill. In fact, Shez doesn't have a kill throw, and their combo throw stops working from mid-percents onward. An underpowered grab game is one of their weak points. Finally, how about a few taunts? Some ways this seasoned sellsword could show off include one where they perform a series of spinning sword flourishes while saying, "Doing pretty good." One where they beckon their opponent to fight, saying, "Let's do this." And one where they wipe the sweat off their brow, complete with a sigh of relief. We've reached Shez's specials, but to fully explain how they work, we need to go over something first. You know how a lot of characters nowadays have some kind of meter mechanic that defines how they play? I gave Shez something like that because it made sense. Sort of. Because who said anything about just one? Inspired by the need to balance multiple resources at once to make the most of each unit in Three Hopes, all 4 of Shez's specials have their own dedicated mechanic that follows distinct rules. This is the reason why their moveset is so thinking heavy for a rushdown fighter. Their players must understand how to use everything currently available and balance using it all so they're never left under-equipped. We'll be going over each special and mechanic one at a time. Let's get started. For Shez's neutral special, I did say they have magic ability. Every unit in Three Hopes can learn a variety of combat arts to use in battle, some magic-based, some built around their weapon. They can equip 2 at a time and call upon them as needed, if they have the resources to do so. For our version, Shez casts one of 2 magic spells based on how long the B button is held. Simply tapping it casts Blizzard, which creates a wave of ice that travels across the ground at low height for a moderately long distance. If it runs into something, or someone, it detonates in a 3-hit chain of ice damage that deals minor knockback and opens them up for follow-ups. If you hold B instead, Shez casts Dark Spikes Tau, summoning 4 dark spikes in a spread formation in the air diagonally above, and 1 second later, they come down one at a time in rapid succession for a long-lasting chain of 4 dark explosions immediately ahead. Both are strong in different ways, but there's a catch. Shez starts each stock with a limited amount of durability, and casting each spell expends some of it. Run out, and you can't use this move at all, and the only way to replenish durability is at the start of a new stock. Combat magic gives Shez a pair of useful projectiles that run off a limited supply. Use Blizzard to cover your approaches or sneak under enemy projectiles and open them up. Or use Dark Spikes Tau to help your advantage state by pressuring ledge get-ups or covering platforms. Just don't get trigger happy, or you'll be left without a key part of your arsenal until your next stock. Also, if Blizzard reaches an edge prematurely, it falls off the side while keeping its momentum, going past most low recoveries and dealing only 1 hit in the air. And Dark Spikes Tau freezes Shez in place until the move is finished, and it can detonate above your intended target if there's something in the way. Better strap in because they're all this crazy. Shez's side special pulls from a different ability. Every class in Three Hopes has a designated class action that helps lock in that class's playstyle. This particular move is the class action of Shez's signature Flugel and Asura classes. On use, Shez swings their signature blade, creating a crescent-shaped shockwave that travels forward at moderate speed, faster than Cloud's blade beam for reference. If it hits anything, or once it goes a certain distance, Shez zips forward to its location in the blink of an eye and performs a second slash. But this move has its own resource, a class gauge just like in Three Hopes that fills up as Shez performs attacks, filling more if the attacks deal damage, lighting up a sword icon once it's topped off. Use this move then, and Shez expends the built-up meter to create a larger shockwave laced with dark magic that travels faster, gains transcendent properties, so it goes through all attacks without interacting, and the follow-up becomes as strong as a heavy attack. Flugel Slash is an unusual burst option that creates an opening then rushes forward to capitalize. It's a bigger threat when the class gauge is prepped, but it's still useful without it. Can also be used as a recovery move, albeit a very telegraphed one that puts you into freefall afterward. Fair warning, Shez can't move after the shockwave until the dash happens. Getting hit before the dash stops the shockwave, and the follow-up has a ton of end lag that makes it very unsafe on shield. Up special is next. Well, if you're any familiar with this character, you know what this one is. Yeah, pretty obvious. Every unit in Three Hopes has a unique action specific to them no matter what class they're in, and Shez's unique action stands out particularly well. On use, Shez transforms into living shadows and warps in a chosen direction at high speed. Sounds simple at first, but it gets complex once we factor in its cooldown gauge. Like many unique actions in Three Hopes, using Shadow Flash puts it on a cooldown afterward. We won't be so cruel to take away Shez's recovery completely for a while every time it's used, but if you use it again while it's on cooldown, which lasts about 12 seconds, you get a weaker version instead. When fully fresh, you can teleport in 16 directions and go as far as Furor's Wind with faster startup. But when on cooldown, you can only go in 8 directions, just cardinal and diagonal, you travel slower, it has actual end lag afterward, and its max distance is 1/3 shorter. Shadow Flash is a teleport type recovery move with some extra features. Arguably the best teleport in the game when it's at full strength, but since it's so much weaker when on cooldown, and using it while on cooldown resets the timer, it makes Shez unusually vulnerable when sent off stage repeatedly. You could also use it on stage to cover ground quickly, but since that still activates the cooldown, it's a huge risk. It also has no hitbox at any point, so no out of shield stuff here. Alright, what do we do for Shez's down special? Well, there's one big thing we haven't used yet, so might as well. The Awakening mechanic allows any unit in Three Hopes to enter a temporary super mode that offers several enhancements. You know how those offense stats had 2 parts? This is why. Anytime Shez deals or takes damage, their Awakening meter slowly fills up, more from the former than the latter to encourage fighting aggressively. Once the meter is filled, press down and B to have Shez awaken, altering their appearance and gaining a few key buffs as long as it lasts. All of their normal attacks deal increased shield damage and slightly more shield stun, making them safer on block and much more capable of poking through enemy defenses, sort of like forcing out stun gauges in Three Hopes. Their heavy attacks also deal more damage and knockback, boosting Shez's kill power from mediocre to an actual threat. And if you're worried about blowing through your meter all at once, you can press down and B again to cancel your awakened state early, saving half the remaining gauge to use next time, though you still have to refill it completely to use it again. A manually triggered enhanced state, and install in fighting game terms, Awakening makes Shez's offense even scarier for a while by fixing some of their key weaknesses and bolstering some of their strengths. Has to be used carefully though. While each use can last up to 15 seconds, getting hit while awakened lops off some meter relative to the damage taken, and if you lose a stock, you lose 2/3 of your built up meter even if you're not awakened, which means it works better as a desperation move at high percents, just like how Shez uses it in the story, than something you save for the next stock. Whew, crazy stuff. How do we top all of that for a final smash? Simple. We use 2 things we haven't tapped into yet. Powered up even further by the light of the Smash Ball, Shez opens with a powerful forward slash of their signature blade that stuns anyone in range. This has to connect for the move to continue, but if it does, Shez immediately jumps into their ultimate combat art Swift Slice, assailing everyone in a large area of effect as they warp around and strike on all sides with a flurry of darkness-infused slashes. But why stop there? Right before the end, Shez goes into the start of their warrior special, striking an even bigger range with an impossibly fast chain of slices and thrown swords. Then they leap high above the carnage, brandish both swords, and deliver a devastating double slash onto their helpless foes below. Ain't no one in Fodlan who can survive that, and not many will here either. This is what Shez could be in Smash. A seemingly ordinary mercenary whose unwitting defiance of fate led their world down a very different path. Though thrown in over their heads in a conflict on a grand scale, their masterful swordplay, otherworldly powers, and understanding of how to use the resources available to them will see them through. With a moveset built around the combo-heavy gameplay of a Warriors spinoff, Shez has a flexible and multifaceted set of combos that let players express themselves while racking up damage. Having multiple moves that create openings in neutral situations also helps make their approaches more effective and harder to predict, and they can temporarily offset some of their key weaknesses through smart use of Awakening. However, Shez's knockout power is very situational. It's good when awakened, but outside of that, opponents will live for a while. All of their normals are built for one of two roles with clear, consistent weaknesses for each type, making coming up with counterplay easier than usual. And the sheer amount and variety of resources and meters to manage makes for a fighter that is very mentally demanding to play competently. I know I took a risk making this one. Covering a Fire Emblem character? From a spinoff, no less? Bet there'll be a lot of angry comments for daring to entertain the idea. This is one of those characters who stuck out to me right away the moment we first heard about him, and the more I played Three Hopes, the more moveset ideas just popped into my head. Even giving each special its own meter was a natural extension of the moves that work best there. So, here I am, getting interested in an idea that'll probably never happen in Smash for real. Oh well. Makes me wish we really could get a Smash minor league spin-off where characters who couldn't have made the main roster would have somewhere to show what they can do. Shez would be perfect for a game like that, and isn't the first challenger in this series who would either. Anyway, special thanks to these folks here for helping make this video happen. Thanks to my patrons as well for their continued support. And now it's their turn to vote on which of these 3 characters gets to go next. The choice is yours to make. So, until next time, I need to go talk to everyone around camp and upgrade a couple facilities, and get some training in, and cook lunch, and reforge that brave sword we got last battle, and I think Felix and Annette have a new support conversation, and... ugh.